Chapter 31. Elandra's Inner Journey. As the light from the eternal torch faded, Elandra drifted into a state of uncertainty. The throbbing pain in her head felt like relentless waves, accompanied by fragmented images. Suddenly, she found herself falling into another realm, a misty forest bathed in faint purple light filtering through the colossal branches of ancient trees. "Where am I?" Elandra whispered, her voice echoing in the silent void. She heard soft footsteps and turned around. Nyxara appeared, her long, night-like hair shimmering with purple hues. She approached, her gaze sharp yet gentle. "You are within your own mind, Elandra," Nyxara said, her voice calm and warm. "But this is no ordinary dream. Malgrath has invaded it, turning this place into a trap. I will guide you through." Elandra nodded, steadying herself. "I'm ready." Nyxara led Elandra deeper into the forest, where the air grew heavier with each step. Memories from Elandra's past came to life around them, vivid, as though they were happening anew. She saw herself standing before a burned-down village, her loved ones lying motionless on the ground. She heard her mother's anguished scream before the image of her vanished into raging flames. The pain tore through Elandra's heart. "This isn't real," Nyxara said, pulling Elandra out of the nightmare. "He's using your fears to weaken you." Before Elandra could regain her composure, a massive, shadowy figure emerged, her own reflection, but with glowing red eyes and a wicked smile. "Do you think you can change your fate, Elandra?" the shadow sneered. "You're nothing but a pawn." Elandra clenched her fists, but her legs felt frozen in place. Nyxara stepped forward, summoning the lullaby of illusions, a soft purple light that momentarily pushed the shadow away. "You must face it, Elandra," Nyxara urged. "No one else can do it for you." As the shadow dissipated, Malgrath appeared, his presence regal yet treacherous. Dressed in a crimson cloak, his golden eyes gleamed in the darkness. "Elandra, I'm not here to harm you," he said, his voice smooth yet full of deceit. "I've come to offer you power. Don't you wish to rid yourself of this weakness?" With a wave of his hand, a massive throne materialized before her, surrounded by glittering treasures. "Sit upon it, and I will grant you everything you've ever desired." Elandra felt her resolve waver. The temptation was overwhelming, and she nearly stepped forward. But Nyxara placed a firm hand on her shoulder, her gaze cold and piercing. "He's trying to control you. Don't let him deceive you." Closing her eyes, Elandra focused on the small light within her heart. She remembered why she was here, the promises she had made to protect the light, and those she loved. Malgrath sensed Elandra's hesitation fading. He roared, summoning a colossal storm of darkness that engulfed her and Nyxara. But this time, Elandra didn't retreat. She closed her eyes and reached deep within herself, drawing from the strength buried inside. Light began to radiate from her, brighter than ever before. "You cannot control me, Malgrath," she declared, her voice resonating like thunder. The light surged outward, piercing through the darkness and blasting Malgrath away. Malgrath howled in fury. "You'll regret rejecting me, Elandra," he snarled, vanishing into a cloud of black smoke, leaving a profound stillness in his wake. Elandra opened her eyes to find herself lying on the floor of the central temple. The other deities surrounded her, their faces filled with awe. Nyxara knelt beside her, offering a gentle smile. "You did it, Elandra. You saved yourself." Auren approached, his radiant light enveloping her. "Now, you carry not just the power of light, but the balance of light and darkness. That's the strength we need." Elandra felt the newfound energy coursing through her, an unquenchable fire. "I won't let you down," she said, her eyes shining with determination. At the meeting that followed, the deities discussed their next move. Solian stood, his voice grave yet authoritative. "Darkness won't wait. We need to strike before they consolidate their power." Auren nodded, his gaze sweeping across the room. "But we need someone to lead this mission. Someone who can balance light and darkness." His eyes landed on Elandra. "You are the most suited for this task." Elandra clenched her fists, resolve surging through her. "I'll lead, and we will prevail." As preparations were underway, a loud crash echoed in the distance. Thalios entered, his expression tense. "The seas are rising. We must act immediately." Elandra met Thalios's gaze, her determination unwavering. "Let me accompany you." "It's time I prove myself." Thalios nodded. "Prepare yourself, for where we're going, nothing will come easy." Quote, Chapter 32. Secrets Beneath the Ocean Palace. Thalios led the group of gods, Elandra, Ignis, Zephyra, and Nyxara, toward the ocean. Before them, a colossal palace emerged from the depths, bathed in the green glow of bioluminescent creatures. "This is the palace of the ancient sea gods," Thalios said, his deep voice tinged with pride. "Not only does it hold a fragment, but also secrets we have never uncovered." Elandra glanced around, her heart pounding at the magnificent yet enigmatic sight. "Is there something you haven't told us, Thalios?" she asked. Thalios hesitated, his gaze clouded with concern. "There is a creature guarding this place. It will not let us pass easily." As the gods ventured deeper into the palace, a rumbling sound echoed from beneath. Water erupted in columns, and from the center of a massive pool, a giant creature emerged. It was Leviathor, an ancient entity with an enormous body covered in emerald scales and eyes glowing like precious gems. "Outsiders," Leviathor said, its voice a booming resonance. "You dare enter my domain. If you seek what lies within, prove your courage and wisdom." The gods exchanged uneasy glances. Ignis, ever impulsive, stepped forward. "We don't have time for meaningless trials. Hand over the fragment or I'll silence Ignis." Zephyra interjected, her wings stirring the air. "Do you think you can burn water? Let us handle this with reason." "Enough, both of you," Thalios commanded. "Leviathor is not easily swayed. Let us hear what it demands." Quote, Leviathor raised a massive tentacle, creating 3 paths leading deeper into the palace. "Choose a path. Only one will lead to the fragment. The other 2 will bring destruction." The gods deliberated. Nyxara used her shadow magic to probe the paths but could discern nothing unusual. Growing impatient, Ignis charged into the leftmost path. A loud explosion followed, and a whirlpool forced him to retreat. Zephyra focused, sensing the faint breezes around her. "The middle path feels different," she said. "There's no wind, but it carries the distinct scent of sea salt. We should try it." Thalios nodded. "I trust you. Everyone, follow me." As they advanced, tensions flared between Ignis and Zephyra. "You always think you're smarter than everyone else," Ignis snapped, frustration clear in his voice. "Not every problem can be solved with a gentle breeze." "And not every problem can be solved with fire," Zephyra retorted coolly. "If you can't control your ego, you'll ruin everything." "Enough," Thalios's voice thundered. "If you two can't work together, we'll never complete this mission." Elandra stepped between them, her tone calm but firm. "We need each other. No matter our differences, our goal is to protect this world." Reaching the heart of the palace, the gods found a massive chamber with a glowing chest at its center. Before they could touch it, a star-shaped seal of blue light materialized, encasing the chest. "This is an ancient seal," Thalios explained. "Only the power of the sea can break it." He raised his trident, chanting an incantation. Whirlpools spiraled around the seal, dimming its light, but Thalios began to falter, his energy waning. "I can't hold on much longer," he said weakly. "Let me help you." Elandra stepped forward, channeling her light magic to support Thalios. The combined power of light and water broke the seal at last. As the seal shattered, a roar erupted from behind them. Caelus, the demon of black flames, emerged, shrouded in deadly fire. "Did you think you could take the fragment without facing consequences?" Caelus unleashed a massive wave of black fire toward the group. Nyxara used her shadow magic to block it, but Caelus's power overwhelmed her. Elandra, tapping into her newfound strength, cast a radiant light shield, protecting the group. "We can't defeat him here," Thalios said. "We need to retreat now." Clutching the fragment, the gods quickly retreated. Thalios summoned a tsunami to slow Caelus's pursuit, while Zephyra used her speed and control over the wind to lead the group out of the palace. Back at the central temple, the gods were exhausted. Auren awaited them, his expression grim. "We can wait no longer. It's time to act." In the dim light of the temple, an uneasy tension filled the air. Solien surveyed the group, suspicion flickering in his eyes. "Something is amiss. We must be more vigilant than ever." Elandra looked around, her resolve unwavering. "No matter what happens, I won't let the darkness win." Quote, Chapter 33. Voron's Manipulation. In the central temple, the light from the eternal torch dimmed strangely. Auren stood at the center of the meeting room, his golden eyes scanning the group. "We've wasted too much time," he said, his deep voice resonating with authority. Every passing minute brings the demons closer to their goal. Solian nodded, but his expression betrayed a flicker of doubt. Something is wrong. I can feel the timeline destabilizing. A power is manipulating us from within. Elandra, standing near Nyxara, felt the heavy tension in the air ahead. Perhaps we need a clearer plan, she suggested, trying to ease the growing anxiety. It's not just about the plan, Nyxara murmured, her gaze icy. We need to uncover who's causing this chaos. In the darkness of an empty chamber, Voren stood still, his crimson eyes glowing faintly. The noble gods, he whispered, his voice smooth and hypnotic. You may be powerful, but none of you trust each other completely. That's the weakness I will exploit. With a wave of his hand, a silver mist slithered through the temple corridors, seeping into the minds of the gods, planting seeds of doubt. Back in the meeting room, tensions escalated rapidly. Ignis, known for his fiery temper, stepped forward and pointed accusingly at Zephyra. You've been stalling us, haven't you? Are you deliberately slowing us down to aid the demons? Zephyra turned sharply, her wings trembling with anger. How dare you accuse me? I've sacrificed so much to get here. Enough. Auren's voice boomed as his light flared, silencing the room. We cannot allow petty suspicions to weaken us. Solian surveyed the room, his gaze lingering on each member. Someone has been manipulated. But who? Elandra sensed a strange chill spreading through the air. She turned and noticed Solara, the usually gentle goddess, standing silently, her eyes clouded with uncertainty. Solara? Elandra called out, but received no response. Suddenly, Solara raised her hand, summoning massive vines that shot toward the central table where the artifact shards lay. You are not worthy of keeping them, she said coldly, her voice unrecognizable. Nyxara leaped forward, wielding shadows to block the attack. She's been controlled, Nyxara shouted. This is Voren's doing. Chaos erupted as the gods clashed. Ignis tried to burn through Solara's vines, but they were too strong, quickly smothering his flames. Zephyra summoned gusts of wind to create distance between Solara and the others, but the situation grew increasingly dire. Standing in the center, Solian's icy gaze focused on the chaos. Raising his hourglass, he cast frozen motion, temporarily halting time. In the stillness, he approached Solara. This isn't you, Solara, he murmured, placing a hand on her shoulder. Using his divine power, he sealed Voren's influence with a temporary ward. When time resumed, Solara collapsed, her eyes regaining their gentle clarity. I don't remember what happened, she said, her voice trembling. With the immediate danger contained, Nyxara stepped forward, her tone grave. Voren isn't attacking us directly. He's using our minds as weapons. If we don't counter this, he'll continue to manipulate us. Do you have a plan? Auren asked, his golden eyes blazing. I'll create a shadow barrier, Nyxara explained. It will shield our minds from his influence, but it requires everyone's cooperation. Solian nodded. I'll assist you, but we must act quickly. Voren won't stop. As the gods prepared to cast the barrier, a voice echoed through the air. Do you think you can escape me? It was Voren, his tone deep and mocking. It's all futile. Doubt has already taken root within you. It will grow and destroy you from the inside. Elandra clenched her fists, her eyes burning with determination. You're wrong, Voren. We won't let you win. Once the barrier was complete, the gods received urgent news from their followers. The wind plains were being consumed by darkness. Zephyra turned to Auren, her expression filled with worry. I must go, she said. The shard there cannot fall into their hands. You won't go alone, Elandra said, stepping forward. We'll face this together. Zephyra nodded, her wings trembling slightly. Then let's prepare. We don't have a moment to waste. Chapter 34. The Battle at the Fields of Wind. Zephyra led the group toward the land of the wind, a place where storms never ceased. The sky gradually turned gray, with swirling clouds spinning as if stirred by unseen hands. The fields stretched endlessly, their surface covered in tall grass swaying rhythmically with the winds. Elandra lifted her face to feel the cold drafts brushing against her skin. The air here, it feels both tranquil and threatening. Zephyra responded, her voice resolute. This is where I was born. But don't be deceived by its serenity. Once the winds awaken, they leave no one unscathed. The group pressed on, venturing deeper. The winds grew fiercer, and sudden whirlwinds emerged sporadically, testing their courage. Reaching the center of the fields, the group sensed something amiss. The sunlight vanished, and the sky turned pitch black, as if night had fallen abruptly. From the dense shadows emerged Umbra, the demon lord of darkness. He floated mid-air, his form blending into the night, and his glowing red eyes fixed on the deities. "Did you think you could take the fragment without paying the price?" His voice echoed chillingly, as cold as a winter gale. Zephyra stepped forward, her wings flaring, dismayed. "Umbra, you have no right to hold it. Leave now, or you'll face destruction." Umbra laughed darkly. "You think you can challenge me in the domain of darkness? I'll turn your winds against you." With a sweep of his hand, he summoned a shroud of darkness that blanketed the entire area. The winds now carried a sense of death, like invisible blades slicing through their flesh. Elandra felt the creeping panic in the air. Even Zephyra began losing control over her power. Taking a deep breath, Elandra focused on the light within her. "We can't let him manipulate this darkness," she said, raising her hand to conjure a small sphere of light. It wasn't strong, but it illuminated a few meters around them, providing a glimmer of hope in the abyss. Zephyra looked at Elandra, surprised. "You're becoming a true leader." Elandra led the group forward, step by step. Despite the darkness closing in, she held the light steady, carving a path for them to follow. As they neared the fragment's location, Umbra summoned an army of shadow creatures. Dozens of amorphous beings with glowing red eyes lunged at the deities, moving with ghostly speed through the storm. Zephyra tried to summon her wind powers to counter them, but Umbra's darkness rendered the winds chaotic and uncontrollable. "I need more time!" she shouted. Elandra gritted her teeth, channeling her light to shield the group. She created a protective barrier that held back the shadowy onslaught. But each wave of attacks drained her strength. "We can't stay on the defensive forever," Ignis roared, his hands blazing with fire as he tried to repel the creatures. "We need to attack!" Amid the chaos, Elandra spotted a faint glow in the distance, the fragment's location. She shouted, "I'll retrieve it! Cover me!" Zephyra and Ignis charged into the fray, creating an opening for Elandra. She sprinted toward the light, each step feeling like a battle against a raging storm. At last, she reached the fragment, translucent crystal radiating a mystical glow. The moment she grasped it, Umbra appeared behind her, his red eyes blazing with fury. "Did you think it would be so easy to take it?" Umbra lunged at Elandra, but Zephyra arrived just in time. Her wings spread wide as she summoned a colossal tornado. "This is the true power of the wind, Umbra. Feel its wrath!" The tornado, infused with Elandra's light, swept through the shadow army and hurled Umbra far into the distance. The darkness dissipated, leaving a clear path out of the fields. "Run!" Zephyra shouted, leading the group to retreat before Umbra could recover his strength. Back at the central temple, the deities were exhausted but resolute. Auren awaited their return, his radiant presence rejuvenating their spirits. Elandra handed him the fragment, saying, "The demons are working together more closely than we anticipated. This isn't just a series of isolated battles." Zephyra nodded. "Umbra has learned to weaponize our own powers against us. If they continue to coordinate, we'll face even greater challenges." Auren clenched the fragment tightly, his eyes burning with determination. "We must adapt our strategies. There's no room for division among us now." Solian appeared, holding an ancient tome. "I've found a prophecy in the Library of Time. It speaks not only of the fragments, but also of an entity capable of destroying both gods and demons alike." Auren nodded solemnly. "We must gather the entire group to discuss this. This could be the key to our victory, or our doom." The deities remained silent, but in their eyes burned an unshakable resolve. Chapter 35. The Forgotten Prophecy. Solian placed a thick, ancient tome on the large table in the central temple's meeting hall. The golden runes on its cover glowed faintly, casting a soft light. He carefully turned the pages, the dry parchment crackling in the still air. "This is the oldest record in the Library of Time," Solian said, his voice low but firm. "It holds the forgotten prophecy from thousands of years ago, detailing the supreme fragment and an ancient entity." Auren leaned in, his eyes fixed on the script written in an archaic language. "What is this entity? Could it be related to the demons?" Solian shook his head. "The prophecy speaks of an ancient being so powerful that it could destroy gods and demons alike. It was sealed with the supreme fragment, the very fragment we are seeking." As the gods gathered, the atmosphere in the room grew tense. Ignis, ever fiery in temperament, slammed his hand on the table. If this entity is so dangerous, why are we looking for it? We're walking straight into our own doom. Zephyra, her expression calm yet cutting, retorted. And what's your solution? Sit here and wait for the demons to destroy the world? You always think you're smarter than everyone else, Ignis bellowed, his voice flaring like a blaze. But you don't understand. Some things can't be controlled. Enough, Auren interrupted, his light spreading through the room, quelling the tension. We don't have time for pointless arguments. If this prophecy is true, we must act quickly to stop the demons before they achieve their goal. As the meeting ended, the temple trembled violently. A noxious, greenish-black mist seeped into the air, and the screams of followers echoed from outside. Nyxara, the demon lord of pestilence, emerged, bringing his horde of demons with him. Did you think you could stop me? Nyxara rasped, his voice like wind howling through a graveyard. I will destroy you, one by one. The gods quickly scattered to defend themselves. Solian used time magic to slow the demon horde's advance, while Auren erected a shield of light to protect the temple's inhabitants. Nyxara summoned shadowy spears to strike at the demons, but Nyxara laughed, his glowing eyes filled with disdain. Darkness cannot harm me. I am the embodiment of decay and ruin. Quote. Amid the chaos, Solian noticed something unusual about the ancient tome. The runes on the final page glowed intensely, revealing a location on the map, the volcanic region of Ignis. I've found the next fragment, Solian shouted, but a toxic blast from Nyxara surged toward him. He retreated, casting a protective spell, but Nyxara's poison weakened him. Ignis charged forward, conjuring a massive flame to burn away the poisonous air around Solian. If it's in my territory, I'll retrieve it myself, Ignis declared, his voice brimming with pride. Recognizing the escalating danger, Auren ordered the gods to split up to safeguard the fragments they had already secured. Nyxara and Zephyra took the newest fragment to a secure location, while Elandra and Solara stayed behind to defend the temple. Though injured, Solian stood firm. Using his time magic, he slowed Nyxara's advance, buying time for others to retreat. We must regroup as soon as possible, he urged. None of you can face him alone. After temporarily repelling Nyxara's attack, Auren gathered the remaining members in a safe location. His light shone brightly, a beacon in the surrounding darkness. We cannot wait any longer, he said. The next fragment lies in the volcanic region. Ignis, you will lead the mission. The rest will support you from afar. Ignis nodded, his eyes blazing like twin infernos. Let me show you the true power of fire. Elandra stepped forward, her voice resolute. I will accompany you. We cannot let any fragment fall into the hands of the demons. As calm momentarily returned, a distraught follower burst into the room, his face pale with fear. A village near Solara's domain is in danger. A strange plague is spreading rapidly. Solara clenched her fists, her eyes blazing with anger. This is Nyxara. He continues his vile schemes. I will not let him destroy my land. Elandra joined her, the light in her hands glowing fiercely. I will go with you. Together, we will put an end to this. Chapter 36. Nyxara's Nightmare. A plague struck unexpectedly in a small village near the borders of Solara's natural domain. Within less than a week, the village descended into ruin. Trees turned a sickly gray-brown, streams became murky, and villagers writhed in pain. Weak groans echoed from dilapidated rooftops, mingled with eerie whispers that drifted from the shadows. At Solara's central temple, a pale-faced follower burst in with news, their words fractured and frantic, adding an oppressive weight to the atmosphere. Standing amidst the verdant greenery of her sanctuary, Solara could feel the pain and decay spreading from her land. She plucked a leaf from the living garland in her hands. Once vibrant and green, it withered instantly upon being plucked. Solara summoned Elandra, the mortal mage whose loyalty had been proven in her prior trials. I need you by my side, Solara said, her gaze resolute. Nyxara is plotting something far greater. If we don't stop him, darkness will consume this world. Elandra nodded, gripping her radiant staff tightly, her eyes unwavering. We won't let him succeed. Together, they left the temple, traversing a forest that was gradually losing its vitality. Signs of the plague became increasingly apparent. Arid, scattered animal carcasses, broken branches strewn across parched ground, and the stench of decay hanging in the air, mingled with a deathly chill. On their way to the village, they were ambushed by plague-infected creatures. A pack of wolves burst from the underbrush, their bodies marred with festering sores, their glowing green eyes filled with malice. Solara summoned vines from the earth to entangle the wolves, but they proved stronger than they appeared, shredding the vines effortlessly as they charged forward. Elandra raised her staff, creating a protective barrier of light around them. The wolves howled in agony as they touched the light, their bodies burning away. The surviving few retreated into the forest. Solara stared at the withered remnants of her vines. This plague's energy is more dangerous than I imagined. The village came into view, a scene straight out of a nightmare. Houses lay in ruins, roads cracked and broken, and the sky above was shrouded in dense black clouds. At the center of the square stood Nyxara, his hollow eyes and emaciated figure cloaked in tattered robes that fluttered in the poisonous wind. He looked at them with disdain. "You think you can save this place? This is only the beginning." With a wave of his hand, a black mist spread outward, engulfing the villagers trapped within. Weak, rasping coughs punctuated the ghastly silence. Solara stepped forward, summoning a whirlwind of leaves that swept away the noxious mist. She glared at Nyxara. "You will not have another chance to do this." Nyxara rushed forward, his blurred figure merging with the black mist. He appeared before Solara, striking directly at her. Vines rose to defend her, but his toxic touch withered them instantly. Elandra, standing behind, traced a glowing sigil in the air, summoning a beam of light that struck Nyxara and forced him back. Hissing, Nyxara unleashed a plague storm, enveloping the entire square. Solara used Breath of the Forest to stabilize their position, while Elandra cast Beacon of Salvation, targeting Nyxara's weaknesses. The battle raged on for hours, both sides launching relentless attacks. Wounded by Elandra's powerful strike, Nyxara decided to retreat. Before vanishing, he left a strange symbol etched into the ground, a withered flower with charred petals. "This is only the first step," he growled, his voice a low rumble. "You cannot stop me forever." Solara knelt and touched the symbol, sensing its strange energy. "The primal world," she murmured, her gaze filled with worry. Solara and Elandra spent days purifying the village of all traces of the plague. Solara cast powerful restoration magic, and gradually, leaves began to sprout anew, streams cleared, and the surviving villagers were healed. Yet the emotional scars left by the plague would remain. Elandra watched the renewal in silence, her heart heavy with the memories of what she had witnessed. "We saved them today. But will tomorrow bring something better?" she asked, her voice trembling. Solara placed a hand on Elandra's shoulder, her voice gentle yet firm. "We won't let this happen again, no matter the cost." Returning to the central temple, Solara convened the other gods to discuss their next move. Auren stepped forward, holding the eternal torch. "The primal world is not easily reached, but if that's where Nyxara is plotting his next move, we must be ready." Solian examined the symbol, the light from his hourglass glowing brightly. "Time is not on our side. We must act immediately." Ignis, ever impulsive, clenched his fists. I will not let this darkness spread further. Show me the way, and I will lead the charge." Solara stepped forward, her eyes resolute. "No one leads alone. We will only succeed if we act as one." Chapter 37. The Primal World. Under the starlit sky at the central temple, Solian held the eternal hourglass in his hands. He traced a glowing symbol in the air, summoning a massive portal that shimmered with a faint blue hue before the group. "The primal world exists beyond time and space," he said, his voice low and steady. "We have only one chance to enter and find the final fragment. Prepare yourselves for unforeseen trials." Auren tightened his grip on the eternal torch, its radiant light illuminating the surroundings. Beside him, Elandra held her glowing staff firmly, determination shining in her eyes. Together with Solara, Ignis, Zephyra, Thalios, Nyxara, and Elandra, the group stepped into the portal, the brilliance swallowing them in a blinding flash. The primal world unfolded in a breathtaking vista. Towering ancient trees stretched skyward, their leaves glowing like starlight. Rivers sparkled endlessly, reflecting light from hovering crystalline orbs scattered across the air. The group tread cautiously. Each step seemed to warp the surrounding space. Ghostly images of past and future flickered in the clouds above, as if time obeyed no rules here. A deep voice rumbled, shaking the very air. "Intruders! Prove your worth to proceed." An ancient entity materialized, its form indistinct yet commanding. Towering like a mountain, its eyes glowed with the brilliance of twin suns. "The first trial is yours, Ignis," the ancient entity declared. "Your fiery power is a double-edged sword. Prove you can control it." Ignis stepped forward, gripping his flaming blade tightly. A fiery arena emerged, surrounded by molten lava and blazing heat. From the flames arose a colossal being, exact replica of Ignis, but imbued with uncontrollable fury. The duplicate lunged at him, unleashing devastating attacks. Ignis remained calm, resisting the pull of the chaotic fire. With each strike from the duplicate, he channeled his inner focus to turn the flames into a shield, wielding them as a disciplined force. After a fierce battle, Ignis absorbed the surrounding flames and sealed the duplicate. "I have mastered myself," he declared, his eyes resolute. With Ignis's trial complete, the group pressed onward, arriving at an ancient temple hidden deep within the forest. Its walls glowed faintly, with inscriptions of intricate, ancient symbols. Elandra stepped forward, her sharp eyes scanning the carvings. This is the ancient language of the first gods. A single mistake could trigger a trap." She began to interpret the symbols, her hand tracing matching patterns in the air. As she worked, the ground trembled, and shadowy creatures emerged, attempting to disrupt her concentration. Auren and Zephyra fought valiantly to defend her, while Solara cast protective wards to maintain a barrier. Finally, Elandra deciphered the last symbol, unlocking a passageway leading deep underground. Deeper within the world, the group encountered another ancient entity, a colossal dragon with cold, unyielding eyes. Thalios stepped forward, gripping his mighty trident. "I will hold it off," he said. "What you need is time." The battle between Thalios and the dragon was fierce. Each swing of his trident unleashed massive waves, but the dragon was relentless. Despite being gravely wounded, Thalios fought on, determined to protect the group. And in a final, selfless act, he channeled all his divine power to seal the dragon, ensuring the others could continue. Before collapsing, he smiled at Auren. "Do this for all of us." The group arrived at the final chamber, where the last fragment was shielded by a radiant barrier of light. Solian used the eternal hourglass to slow time, while Auren wielded the light of the eternal torch to break through the barrier. As the fragment was retrieved, a blinding light engulfed the chamber. The group felt the presence of a familiar malevolent force. Emerging from the fading light, Malgrath appeared, a faint smirk playing on his lips. His golden eyes glowed with malice. "Do you think claiming the fragment means victory? This is merely the beginning." Auren tightened his grip on the torch, his gaze unwavering. "We won't let you destroy this world, Malgrath." Malgrath offered no reply, vanishing into the shadows, leaving an oppressive silence in his wake. The group prepared to leave the primal world, carrying the final fragment with them, ready to face the ultimate battle that awaited. Chapter 38. The Battle in the Primordial World. The gods had just retrieved the final fragment in the primordial world when an icy chill enveloped the space. Dense fog appeared, shrouding them in its oppressive presence. Malgrath, cloaked in deep crimson with piercing golden eyes, slowly emerged. Behind him stood Vorin, the embodiment of betrayal and inner conflict, his half-translucent, half-shadowed wings radiating a menacing energy. "I warned you that you would not leave here without paying the price," Malgrath said, his voice cold and filled with menace. Auren stepped forward, the eternal torch in his hand glowing brightly, pushing back some of the encroaching darkness. "Malgrath, your shadow will never overcome the light." Summoning dawn! A powerful beam of light burst forth, forming a protective barrier around the gods. Vorin's darkness was held at bay, though not completely extinguished. Vorin smirked. "You may shield yourselves, but you cannot escape." Malgrath raised his hand, unleashing a surge of energy that fractured the surrounding space. The gods were separated, each trapped in their own isolated dimension, forced to face deadly trials created by Malgrath and Vorin. Auren faces Malgrath. Malgrath pulled Auren into an illusory world where the eternal torch's light dimmed. In this realm, Malgrath conjured visions of Auren's old friends, kneeling before him, begging to be saved. "Don't you see? Your light has failed. Let me show you how to command this world." Malgrath's voice dripped with seductive persuasion. Auren closed his eyes, focusing his will, and the eternal torch flared brilliantly, shattering the illusions. "You cannot break my resolve." Solara and Zephyra battle the Shadow Army. In a forest cloaked in darkness, Solara and Zephyra found themselves surrounded by an army of shadows summoned by Vorin. Zephyra called upon her tempest of freedom, scattering part of the army, while Solara used her breath of the forest to revive the trees, transforming them into warrior guardians. Ignis faces his doppelganger. Ignis confronted a doppelganger created by Vorin, a version of himself consumed by rage and chaos. The battle was fierce, with each strike igniting the surrounding flames. As the fight wore on, Ignis realized that the doppelganger was a manifestation of his own fears and instability. Taking a deep breath, he mastered his inner fire and struck down the doppelganger with his flaming sword. While the gods struggled, Elandra was drawn into a void filled with whispers by Malgrath. He tempted her with visions of ultimate power, offering her dominion over all lands as their queen. But Elandra saw through his deceit. She discovered that the final fragment they had retrieved could amplify the power of light. Harnessing its energy, she temporarily sealed Malgrath within a circle of radiant light. "You cannot destroy our will," Elandra declared as the light surged, encasing Malgrath. He roared in fury, his golden eyes burning with rage. The gods gradually regrouped after overcoming their individual trials. Despite being weakened, Malgrath and Vorin did not relent, and an all-out battle erupted, lasting for hours. Ignis and Zephyra defeat Vorin. Zephyra unleashed powerful whirlwinds to destabilize Vorin, while Ignis channeled his fiery strength into his flaming sword. Together, they landed a decisive blow, forcing Vorin to retreat in a fit of anger. Malgrath temporarily sealed Elandra, and Auren joined forces. Auren wielded the light of the eternal torch to suppress Malgrath's power, while Elandra used the fragment to amplify her sealing spell. Encased in radiant light, Malgrath let out a piercing scream before vanishing into the shadows. With the demons repelled, the gods gathered at the gate to return. Before leaving, they observed a moment of silence to honor Thalios, who had sacrificed himself during the journey. Solara placed a tender green sprig on the ground as a tribute. Solien activated the gate, the glow of the eternal hourglass illuminating the space. The group carried the final fragment, knowing that the ultimate battle loomed near. Ignis, his eyes burning with determination, declared, "We've come this far. Nothing can stop us now." Chapter 39. Malgrath's Plan. Returning to the central temple, the gods were enveloped by the heavy atmosphere of loss. Thalios had fallen, leaving a gaping void in their ranks. The wounds from the battle in the primal world had yet to heal, but they had no time to rest. Solien placed the eternal hourglass on the stone table, its glow projecting images of Malgrath and his demonic allies, Umbra and Kaelis. His voice was grave. "Then Malgrath won't stop here. He's uniting with the other demons to prepare for an all-out assault." Auren frowned, his hand tightening around the eternal torch. "If we don't act, this world will be destroyed." Solien used his temporal powers to uncover the demon's plans. The hourglass emitted a faint light as grains of sand flowed backward, conjuring strange images in the air. He saw Malgrath, Umbra, and Kaelis conspiring in a shadowy palace. "They intend to destroy all the gods and shatter the boundaries between worlds to seize everything," Solien said. "If we don't stop them in time, everything will collapse." Auren and Elandra spent hours devising a plan to safeguard the collected shards. They decided to divide them into two groups, each guarded by a team of gods, to minimize the risk of them being stolen. Elandra proposed, using the sealing magic from the final shard to reinforce their defenses. "We cannot let these shards fall into their hands. If necessary, I will use all my power to keep them safe," she said with unwavering determination. Zephyra was tasked with scouting the demon's stronghold to pinpoint their exact location. Alone, she flew over desolate lands, where Malgrath's spreading darkness had drained all life. Deep within a cavern, Zephyra discovered Malgrath's base. The place was engulfed in eternal black flames, with smoke spiraling ominously into the sky. She quickly noted its position and attempted to retreat, but her presence was detected. Umbra emerged from the shadows, his cold eyes fixed on her. Zephyra used her full speed to escape, creating massive whirlwinds to delay Umbra's pursuit. Exhausted but alive, she returned safely. Back at the central temple, tensions rose as the gods debated their next move. Ignis, with his fiery temper, objected to splitting the group. "If we don't concentrate our strength, how can we hope to defeat them?" he argued. Despite her fatigue, Zephyra countered, "If we keep all the shards together, one mistake could cost us everything." Solara stepped forward, her voice calm yet firm.
We cannot let disagreements divide us now. Thalio sacrificed himself so we could have a chance at victory. Don't waste it.
After much debate, the gods agreed on Solian's plan to launch a preemptive strike to weaken the demons. They decided to split into two teams. Team A, Auren, Elandra, and Solara, carrying 3 shards.
Team B, Ignis, Zephyra, and Solian, carrying the remaining 2 shards. Ares. Both teams would attack simultaneously to divide Malgrath's forces.
Solara called upon nature's power to heal and bolster the group's spirits. The trees of the eternal forest grew tall and strong, surrounding the temple with a natural defense. Elandra spent her time learning to wield the final shard, combining its light magic with sealing spells. She understood that she would be the last line of defense if all else failed. Both teams departed the temple in silence. No words of farewell were exchanged, but their eyes were filled with resolve. This battle was not just for the shards, but for the survival of the world itself.
As they traveled, Solian sensed an unusual fluctuation in time.
"They know we're coming," he said, his voice heavy with concern. Upon entering the demons' territory, both teams were ambushed by dark forces led by Umbra and Kaelis. Team A, Auren, invoked Summoning of Dawn, creating a protective barrier around the group, while Solara summoned roots from the earth to slow the advancing forces. Elandra focused on safeguarding the shards. Team B, Ignis, and Zephyra worked in perfect sync to counter Kaelis's Black Fire Army. Solian used frozen motion to slow time, giving his team a chance to evade danger. After repelling the dark forces, both teams regrouped at a safe location. For the first time on their journey, there was no arguing. They all understood that only through unity could they hope to prevail. Solara looked at them, her voice filled with emotion. "We have lost so much, but I believe that as long as we don't give up, we can protect this world."
The group responded in unison, their eyes burning with determination.
Welcome to Fantasy Realms. Enjoy the story, and thank you for your support. Chapter 40. The first step of the final battle. Inside the central temple, the air was thick with tension. Auren stood before a massive map spread across a stone table, the eternal torch in his hand illuminating every detail. After careful deliberation, the group of deities decided to split into 2 teams to minimize the risk of losing all the fragments if attacked. Team A, Auren, Elandra, and Solara, carrying 3 fragments. Team B, Ignis, Zephyra, and Solian, safeguarding the remaining 2 fragments. Solara placed a small branch on the table, symbolizing nature's protection. "Every step we take will be watched. Remember, the fate of this world depends on our decisions." The teams parted in silence. No goodbyes were exchanged, but the determination in their gazes spoke volumes. Before stepping out of the temple, Solian whispered, "Time will be our ally if we know how to use it." As the 2 teams journeyed, the environment around them began to shift. Trees withered, the land turned barren, and the sky was cloaked in an ominous gray. Team A, Auren, led the way, the light from his torch serving as the sole source of energy amidst the encroaching darkness. Solara felt the pain of the dying earth, her hands trembling as she touched a desolate tree.
"This darkness is killing everything. We must act faster."
Team B, Ignis, strode forward, his flaming sword radiating a fierce glow. He kept a vigilant eye on their surroundings, ready for battle at any moment. Zephyra felt the winds growing weaker, as though they too were succumbing to the darkness.
"They're getting closer," she said, her eyes sharp.
Less than half a day after splitting up, Malgrath's dark army emerged. Team A. A swarm of shadowy creatures erupted from cracks in the ground, surrounding the group. Auren invoked the Summoning of Dawn, creating a protective barrier as the light from his torch slowed the enemy's advance. Solara summoned roots from the earth to entangle the shadow army, though they were quickly destroyed. Elandra stood at the center, focusing on sealing the fragments with her enchantments. Team B, Ignis, and Zephyra worked in perfect sync. Zephyra unleashed powerful whirlwinds to repel the attackers, while Ignis used the unyielding flames of his sword to incinerate any shadowy creatures that dared approach. Solian, positioned at the rear, prepared to use the time freeze spell should the situation escalate. As the dark army grew in number, Solian activated the time freeze spell. He raised the eternal hourglass, and its grains of sand halted mid-air. Time slowed, freezing the enemies in place like statues. We have only minutes, Solian said urgently. Reinforce our defenses and prepare for the next wave. Ignis wasted no time, creating a fiery barricade around the team. Zephyra hovered above with her delicate wings, using the wind to purify the air tainted by darkness.
Realizing that conventional methods were insufficient against Malgrath's forces, Auren chose to activate one of the fragments. When the fragment was activated, a powerful beam of light erupted, forming a protective shield around the team. "This light won't last long," Auren warned. "We need to move to a safer location while we can." Solara looked at him with respect in her voice. "You saved us this time. But next time, we must be better prepared." After escaping the Dark Army, both teams paused to rest and assess their situation. Solian, holding 2 fragments, realized they were merely pieces of a greater power. "They need to be combined," he said, his eyes thoughtful. "Only then can we seal Malgrath and his forces." Elandra examined the fragments with curiosity. If we activate them all at once, will their power be enough to destroy the darkness?" "Not destroy," Auren corrected. "Seal. Balance must be maintained."
Darkness showed no mercy. As night fell, the Shadow Army returned, stronger and more numerous. Team A Auren continued to lead, the Eternal Torch's light their only lifeline. Solara summoned trees, transforming them into warriors to shield the group. Despite her exhaustion, Elandra remained steadfast, using her sealing magic to protect the fragments. Team B Ignis and Zephyra fought relentlessly, unleashing powerful attacks to break through the encirclement. Solian, at the center, manipulated the hourglass to slow time, giving his allies a chance to counterattack. After hours of combat, both teams finally repelled the Dark Army. They regrouped at a secure location to plan their next move. "We can't stay on the defensive," Ignis declared, his voice resolute. "It's time to strike before they strengthen their forces further." Zephyra agreed but reminded them. "We cannot lose the fragments. They are our only hope." Auren, the Eternal Torch casting light on his weary face, addressed the group. "Balios' sacrifice will not be in vain. We will fight to the very end." Quote,